So this is the agenda. Let me kick straight off then. So the first item on the agenda is UPK Professional. I believe that you are all familiar with UPK and that for most of you, Professional is either new or relatively new. So for those of you that do have some understanding of what Professional is, or Pro, as we often refer to it, then I do apologise if I'm telling you stuff that you already know. So UPK Professional is what we call a learning content management system, so an LCMS, as opposed to an LMS. So typically we do work with learning management systems, and we do have clients who have UPK Professional and a full-blown Oracle learning management system. So they are quite different tools. Basically with Pro you actually get very granular control over your users and your content, far and away more than you will get in a learning management system. Not only that, it costs a fraction of what a learning management system will cost in terms of both license and implementation. So a lot of people see, a lot of clients, corporate clients see Professional as a way of actually stepping up to a learning management system. So actually to start, really working through the process. What we quite often see is that Pro is introduced on a project basis, and then when we move to business as usual, quite often the business as usual team may take the Pro piece and effectively pull it into a full-blown learning management system. So what you get in the learning management system that you don't get in Pro, I've listed. So things like succession planning and talent management, managing people's career path, if you like, throughout your organisation, so that you have a succession plan and that you manage that talent maybe for future projects to identify if nobody has the requisite certifications and experience, we're able to identify perhaps the top 10 people that nearly meet the mark. So that's the sort of thing you get from a typical learning management system. You also get resource management and scheduling, and that's not only managing people, it's training rooms, kit, books, scheduling courses, sending out joining instructions, all that sort of stuff. So that's typically, again, what you'll get in a learning management system that you won't get in Pro. Compliance and governance, of course, is key. A lot of this stuff we actually get Pro to do to a level, but with a good learning management system, compliance and governance is such that you automate the whole process. So, if somebody's certification is going to expire, you can set it that 6 weeks before you send them an email, then you follow it up if they still haven't done the certification, and then you flag it as a risk with their manager, and it just escalates as you decide through the organisation. Now, Pro does have pre and post assessments, and it also has knowledge checks, but within a learning management system you also get examinations and certifications. Of course you get budgetary control. You can plug all of your reporting and tracking and whatever into maybe your finance and your HR system actually, and also you get analytics. So again, you get all the reporting. That's not the full list, but it gives you the highlights and maybe gives you an understanding of the difference between UPK Professional and a typical learning management system. Now, as I said, I believe all of you have seen UPK Standard, as we refer to it, or use it even. So if we look at what we get with UPK Professional, we get the whole of UPK Standard. So literally, Pro is shipped as when you download the software off the Oracle eDelivery site, you actually get Pro automatically. Oracle don't have two different downloads. There is a difference in price. With Pro, you effectively get an additional database and a whole load of additional functionality, as you'll see from Tim's demo. So there is a difference in price, both from the developer perspective and the end user license. Okay, so when you get Pro, you get everything in Standard that you've got already or that you would get already. But in addition, you get a customizable training portal or landing page. So this is something you can brand and you can actually change the content. It's like widgets really, so you can actually customize that as you need to. The other thing is that with UPK Standard, you create your content and hopefully you assign it to roles, but when your users arrive at the player, you know, the landing page really that you get with standard, those users select their job role and go through the learning. But unless you publish to different areas, those users can actually go through training for any job role. Okay? That doesn't happen with professional. You've got this additional security, usually using some sort of single sign-on, so that really your users only see the learning that you've decided they need. Although there are elements that they can self-enroll on, or you can just leave the whole lot if you wish to self-enrollment. The other thing is, or the thing to be aware of, the way that that works is that we do bulk imports of all the user data. So what in effect you have is a CSV file, which is a bit like a spreadsheet, and quite often we get the client to outload to a spreadsheet and then import it as a CSV file. That gives us really every bit of information we would possibly need about those users. We can actually then bespoke those profiles, and in fact you can add the profiles one at a time if you've got the time and the inclination. But typically what that profile will tell you is obviously the job role, but maybe the business unit and the manager, even the location. Anything that you could possibly want to track and report on should be in that profile. Now the users access the content, as I said, by job role, and then we track that activity. And again, this is where the granularity comes in. We can really drill down on what we're tracking. One thing to be aware of is that UPK Professional tracks not only UPK content, but content that is any content that is SCORM compliant. So what we often see on new UPK, in new UPK accounts, is that the client will have a whole host of other learning materials and a very tight deadline. And what we usually look at is actually creating some of the core simulations in UPK, maybe developing some new content using, I don't know, could be an animation, an HTML5 animation tool, or Macromedia, or a video, whatever, and then existing content we bring in as well. So really what you're looking at with professional, a content repository where anything that is SCORM compliant can actually be tracked and reported. So that's the other thing. If you've got any of the other content development tools, that content is not wasted. You can bring it in and track and report on it. Okay. Just be aware as well that a lot of organisations, because of course the product UPK supports the entire project lifecycle with things like system process documents, system design documents, user acceptance testing scripts, and all of the reports around that. A lot of project teams now use the UPK Professional Content Repository as a knowledge centre, so a repository for all information about the project. And indeed, that's what Oracle do. So when you think about eBusiness Suite or PeopleSoft, those project teams use UPK Professional to manage not only the content that you buy to support your implementation from Oracle, but all the supporting documents right across the project. Okay, so we have pre and post assessments, and because we have these pre-assessments, we're actually able to create prescriptive learning or courses or personal courses. And this is where, yes, you can actually assign users to learning by job role, but what if you just want them to take a test to check their understanding? It may be, if you think about something like Office, it might be that you want everybody to get to an advanced level, but most people have got knowledge to an intermediate level. Well, if they do the pre-assessment, you can actually set it up saying if you get 80% or whatever and above, you don't actually have to do the course. Now, the way we often use that is we use pre-assessments as a benchmark for classroom training. So what we often do is we break up the curriculum so that the users have to do pre-course study, and once they've got that basic knowledge, we then bring them into a classroom, maybe in a lab environment, and then in the classroom, we run the post-assessment to make sure that they've actually got the knowledge they need to have. So personal courses, prescriptive learning, very powerful once you get it set up. And as you would expect, all the reports are customizable, 11 out of the box, but you can customize it using all of the proprietary reporting tools, and you can create hierarchical reports as well. Okay, and you can actually say then that, you know, supervisors only see the reports for their managers, and then the managers Their reports are only seen by the directors and so on. Okay, just one last slide. So UPK Professional. We know about UPK Developer, and we know the way that it enables us to design content, module section topics with, in version 11 and above, a limited amount of questions and assessments. Okay. We also know that we link all of that information together via the concept panes, and as we know in UPK you can actually embed content from just about any source. Now, when we look at UPK Professional, we use the Knowledge Centre and bring in the UPK title or any other title or any other content. What we then do is, using that content, breaking it down into very small nuggets, we assign it to knowledge paths. So a typical knowledge path will contain, if you like, the end-to-end course. So it could be a presentation in PowerPoint, a video giving an overview, and then some simulation, and then perhaps a question and answer, some assessments. Now what we then do is assign the knowledge path to a user group. The users are enrolled in the user groups. The end user, when they log on through the training portal, normally have a list of knowledge paths or courses that they need to complete, and maybe the option to self-enroll in others. Everything they do is tracked via reports, and users can actually see those reports, as can the manager. So what there should be is another arrow saying that the user can access the report, and then at a higher level, so can their manager. All right, I'm now going to hand over to Tim, then, who's going to demonstrate UPK for us. I will be watching the chat in case you've got any questions.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. What we're looking at here is the Knowledge Centre landing page or training portal that Janice referred to in her demonstration. This example that we're going to use for today's demonstration is a Knowledge Centre that we've customised and reskinned as our own, with our own logos and as our own custom content builder, which is something that we use to provide learning for a range of Microsoft products that we've sort of been developing for about 15 years now. Okay, so there's a lot of good content in here that we can have a look at. Obviously, yeah, we've added in our logo. We've got the custom content builder icons at the top there, and we've also added in our own custom area text on the left-hand side here, which, as with all of the custom areas within UPK, is pretty customizable and will allow us to include any additional information that we want. So on the right-hand side then we've got our login page. Okay, so there's, as Janice mentioned, there's two different ways that we can have users logging in. They can either have a username and password allocated to them, so we create a user profile for every single user, or you can link it in through Windows Active Directory. So effectively you just have one single login. It's compatible with a variety of different languages. So if I wanted to have it within a specific language, then I select that. The Knowledge Centre will then remember which language is my preference, and it will amend any of the template text within the UPK training material into that language. So what I'm going to do is just log in as one of our test demonstration users. Try that again. Okay, so once I've logged in, this takes us to the end user homepage. Okay, so we've got three different types of user levels that the Knowledge Centre can have. So at the basic level, we have our end users, so the people that you're delivering the training to, and this is what they can see and they have access to. Above that, we then have a hierarchical structure, so we can allocate managers to each individual user or each user group. So as Janice mentioned, we can group users into user groups so that if we want to include people within a knowledge path or allocate people to a knowledge path and different training material, then rather than having to do it on an individual user basis, we can do it on a group basis, which just makes the management of that a lot easier. We'll have a look at the different options that are available to the line manager's knowledge centre in a little bit. And that's where you would do all of your report generation and tracking of user information. Above the manager level, then we have our administrator level, which is where we would set up our users, set up our groups, create our knowledge paths, allocate managers, etc., and allocate experts as well, etc., etc., which all of that I'll go on to in a little bit. So at the user level then, we have our navigation links on the left-hand side here, and I'll just give you a brief introduction to those, and then we'll go through them all in a little bit more depth in a minute. So the knowledge paths, so this is what Janice was talking about. This is the key area for your users to conduct and execute their training material. And what we can do is we can create those knowledge paths, and we can allocate them to particular users. Okay, and we'll delve into those in a lot more depth in just a minute. I've also got a search function. Okay, I can also go in and have a look at my own user profile. Okay, so I can amend the basic detail that I have within there. I have the functionality of asking an expert, and I can do this either within the topic as I'm going through it within my knowledge path, or I can access it from this screen as well. We'll have a look at that in a little bit more detail later. Likewise, with reviewing feedback, we can also post feedback on any of the training material that we're going through. Okay, and we also have a notebook functionality as well for us to make notes for ourselves. So as we're going through then, we have our concept area on the right-hand side. Again, as with everything with UPK, pretty customizable. All right, I can access a number of standard links through this concept area, however. So I can go to my events schedule to see what it is that what events are scheduled, etc. I can have a link to the subject which I've most recently been accessing. Okay, so the subject is equivalent to your modules within the UPK player and developer. I've also got a history here with any links showing what I've most recently been using, and I can go to my usage summary to generate just a very basic user level usage report that tells me what knowledge paths I have access to, when I've enrolled on them, the different subjects within that knowledge path, when I was last active within them, and various scores. Okay, and we'll talk about, I won't talk in too much depth about these scores at the moment and what these various headings mean. We'll come into that in just a minute when we have a look at the knowledge paths in detail, which we'll do now. So clicking onto the knowledge path link then, so these are all of the knowledge paths that I have been allocated to. When the administrator is setting up a knowledge path, he can or she can either allocate those particular knowledge paths to particular users or user groups, and or they can select for any user to self-enroll within that knowledge path. So I can use the enroll and or withdraw link up at the top right here to go and select in any knowledge path which I'm not currently enrolled in. So the Windows 7 one has been set up there so that anybody can self-enroll within it. If we just go back to the previous page, we can see that that isn't a current knowledge path that I'm currently enrolled in, therefore it does not appear within my knowledge paths page. So if we click on our words example knowledge path here, so the knowledge path is now broken down into our different subjects. As I said before, the subject is very much equivalent to your published module and outline that you would have used within UPK and the player. Now, as we can see in this example, this knowledge path has been set up so that I can complete any subjects within it in any order. So I can go into the intermediate without having done the introduction, or I can go straight to the advanced, and I can work through them however I want to. For those knowledge paths or those subjects that I've already started, I have the option of continuing, or I can restart it, go back to scratch. And for those that I haven't, then I just click on the start link. So if I continue, select to continue with my words 2010 introduction path, we can see here that we now get a landing page very similar to what we've seen with our published UPK player. So we have our library over on the left-hand side here, and then we have our concept area over on the right. Okay, as with the player within UPK, okay, we've got quite a plain one here with just the Microsoft icon and a little bit of text. But we can jazz this up and import video, animation, links to external material, etc., etc. Okay. So there are a few features, however, which the Knowledge Centre provides us, which aren't there in the player. Okay, so the first one, we've got some navigation arrows, so I can simply use those to navigate up and down my my outline or my subject. We've also got a progress percentage statistic there, showing me how much I've completed, okay, and how much I've still got to go. I can also hide that if I want to. If I do have a graphics heavy or video concept pane, I can get rid of the library on the left, so I can just have that on a full page. In addition, over on the right-hand side, I have a number of icons that I can use. So I can add in a note, I can provide feedback, okay, and I can ask an expert. I'll just go through those in a little minute when we've had a look at some of the other ways that the content differs slightly. So as you should hopefully be able to see on the left-hand side, next to each of our module, section, and topic icons, we also have a little box there, and that just gives us a graphical representation for how far we've progressed through the subject. So those that are empty, we haven't started yet. Okay, those that are half full shows that we're in progress, and those that are complete shows that we've completed them. Those that are full shows that we've completed them. Sorry. So as we go through, if I click on a section, there's no kind of underneath that. So all I need to do is view this, and that will then show as having completed. Okay. If we go down to a topic level, we get our normal play modes at the top here. Now, hopefully, you should all be familiar with those. They operate in exactly the same way as they do within UPK. So I'm not going to go through those today. But what we have done that does differ is that one of those play modes is allocated as the required. So in this case, try it mode is the required play mode. So for your end user to have this marked as complete, they have to go through that topic within try it mode. So as you saw on the previous page there, this one was already in progress, so I had already started it, but I hadn't finished going through the topic. So if I just quickly flick through, having done that on try it mode, so I've had a look through, and now you can see that it's now marking that topic as complete. And as Janice mentioned, all of this information is all being tracked and recorded by the Knowledge Centre. So it knows what topics I'm looking at, what topic, in what modes I'm looking at them, how long I'm spending on them, and when I get down to questions or assessments, then it's tracking how well I've done at those assessments and what I've got right, what I've got wrong, etc. So that's the basics then for our player equivalent within UPK. Okay, so within the Knowledge Centre. Okay, so our subjects. So as I mentioned before, we've also got the option of adding notes. So I can add a note to myself for whatever reason. If I want to, I can use it as a, not a bookmark, a bookmark. Okay, so that's so that then I can immediately take myself to the exact point that I was up to. So we saw on the home page there, we have a link that takes us to the particular subject that we're currently working on, but I can then use that bookmark to take me to exactly the topic that I was working on. So we can also provide feedback by using the feedback icon. So I simply put in my subject there, put in my comments there, saying how wonderful it was, or asking a question to the group, or something like that. Okay, and that will then be submitted and will be viewable by anybody that the administrator allows to view feedback. So you can have it just that managers see feedback, or nominated experts see feedback, or you can have it so that everybody sees feedback. So it becomes more like an online forum where everybody can see all of the questions that are being asked and indeed answered. So the final icon at the top here that we're going to have a look at is Ask an Expert. So the administrator can set up nominated individuals as experts. So I would have somebody as an expert for Word. So a user can then fill in this little form here, ask their question in the box down the bottom, click on Submit. The Knowledge Centre will then fire off that question via email to the person that's been nominated as the expert. The expert then completes their answer within the text box that Knowledge Centre generates within the email. They reply back to that, send that back to the Knowledge Centre, and the Knowledge Centre will then fire an email back out to the user who's asked the question with their answer included on it. Okay, so there's just one more thing that we'll look through on knowledge paths, and that's the different type of knowledge path that we can do, which includes pre and post assessments. So if we have a look at our PowerPoint 2010 knowledge path, you can see that this knowledge path has been constructed slightly differently. So as opposed to the Word one, this one is set up in a sequential manner. So I can no longer skip straight to the advanced stage without already having done the introduction subject. Okay, so I have to do the introduction subject first. If I just click on continue, we'll see that there's another excellent feature within the Knowledge Centre that has been set up on this knowledge path. So on the left-hand side, you can see here that we've got a pre-assessment set up and a post-assessment. So the post-assessment and the subjects are not attempted yet. The pre-assessment is in progress, and we'll just continue that in just a minute. So what we've done here is that we've set up an assessment, okay, in exactly the same way as you would do within UPK, but what we've done is associated that within UPK to various subjects that are going to form our, various sections that are going to form our knowledge path material. What the Knowledge Centre then does is track the usage of that assessment, and we can select it, as we've done here, to have that as a pre-assessment. So what this means is that the users can then create their own bespoke knowledge path depending on the results that they get from their pre-assessment. So if you do have users that are a little bit resistant to being trained in an application, they say, well, we know that application, I've used it before, I don't need to do training in that application, then that's perfectly fine. All they then have to do is do the pre-assessment. They work through the pre-assessment. The pre-assessment will track what they know, what they don't know, and it will then allow the user to select to have a bespoke, personalised and configured knowledge centre that they then have to work through. So everything that they get right, that they can prove that they know, they don't have to do the training for. Everything that they get wrong, that they don't know how to do, and they do have to work through the training for those particular elements. So I can show you exactly how that works. In true Blue Peter fashion, here's one that I prepared earlier. As you can see, we're on question 17 of 18. So I'll just pop in a couple of answers here. I want to get them incorrect. So we'll just answer the last of these. Okay, and so once I've completed my assessment, you can see that up here we've got that yes, I've failed in my attempts at this assessment. Okay, it will then break that down in a little bit more detail. So I've only responded correctly to 8 out of 18 questions. Therefore, I do need a lot of training in this application. It gives me my total score in 44%, and then breaks it down in a little bit more detail. So each, so the pre-assessment itself has been broken down into sections. And as you can see, these section names correspond to the elements that form the knowledge path on the left-hand side there. Okay, so our individual modules or sections that we would have done within UPK. So as you can see, as we work our way down, it tells me how much of that section I've got right and how much I've got wrong. So for those ones that I've got right, okay, so these latter ones down the bottom here that are showing 100%, okay, then I now have the option of doing those or not. So these ones at the top, I have not got the required score, therefore these are now required to be included within my personalised content. I have no option of opting out of these. The ones that I have got the required score for, if I want to, I can tick these so that they will be included within my personalised content, or I can leave them unticked. If no, I'm completely happy with those. I've got enough of a score and I don't need any more training in them. So therefore I won't tick them, so therefore they won't be included within my personalised content. If I scroll down a little bit further, you can see that it breaks it down even more into individual questions. So I can see exactly which questions I got right and exactly which questions I got wrong. When I click on the continue button, I then have the option of either showing the full training outline or the full subject, sorry, or I can show the personalised one. Now, whatever decision I make there is not a final decision. So I've clicked on my show personalised. So as you can see on the left-hand side here, I now have my subject, but it's been cut down. It just shows me what I have to do or what I've elected to do, even though that I've passed that element of it within the assessment. If I decide, actually, you know what, I think I want to do the full content because there are some things that I'm not quite happy about, then I can just use this switch to full content link at the top there, and you can see now that on the left-hand side, the subject outline grows, and I now have my full content. Likewise, I can revert to my personalised content if I wish to. And that will then operate in exactly the same way as we saw with the word example tracking through. And asking an expert and reviewing feedback. The only other thing we haven't looked at so far is the notebook. So I can see as I open up the notebook there as a user, I'll get any notes that I've made, created. It can then have the link to go to that subject, and that will take me to exactly that topic within the Word 2010 subject outline that I was working on. So you can see how that works. So finally then, to conclude the demonstration, we'll just have a look at some of the reports that we can generate when we're logged in as a user, as a manager. So I'm now logged in as a manager, okay, not necessarily an administrator, but somebody that's been allocated as with manager rights. So the main differences here, everything else, the vast majority of the knowledge center is still the same. So I would have my own knowledge paths. I can obviously access my user profile. What we've also got here is the fact that this manager has been allocated as an expert in a particular subject. So as well as receiving the emails that he would get or she would get via the Knowledge Centre, they can also go into this page here and actually access any questions that are awaiting responses, as these last two at the bottom are, okay, or I can refer back to questions that have been previously asked and indeed answered. The main difference within the manager environment is that we can generate reports and track all aspects within of my designated users that come under me as a manager within the Knowledge Centre. So as you can see on our report page, the reports are broken down into two different categories. We've got custom reports at the top, and then we've got standard reports at the bottom. So standard reports are anything to do with the assessments that we have associated. So all of those pre-assessments, post-assessments, etc., that we looked at within the PowerPoint knowledge part or the PowerPoint subject. The custom reports is basically anything else. Okay, so anything that's not to do with an assessment. So we'll have a look at a couple of examples, one or two examples if we've got time in a minute, and but we can also basically create any report that we want from any of the information that we can pull out from our users. Well, we won't look at all of the reports, but I will just pick out a couple for you to have a look at and get an idea about. So if we look at the first one we'll look at is the assessment analysis report. So I'll just bring that up for the assessment that we saw being completed within PowerPoint. We just need to bring it all the way down to the relevant activity, process that, and now you can see that that brings up that report. Okay, so what is this showing us? What we've got here then is the total number of times that this particular assessment was taken, so it was taken twice, the average score that was achieved on that, and what its type was. So this is the pre-assessment that we saw at the beginning of the PowerPoint 2010 introduction subject. It then breaks down the different questions or the different question titles down. Okay, we've got what type of question it was, how many have been answered correctly, how many have been answered incorrectly, the percentage of correct and incorrect. One of the more useful ways of using this report is to track whether there's an erroneous question within there. So if the question hasn't been quite worded right or questioned right, or we've made a mistake with how that question's been annotated or created, which results in everybody getting the question wrong, then that will be highlighted within this report, and we can then go into that and have a look at why is it that everybody is getting that particular question wrong or particular subject. Another one that I can look at or will look at is the user progress report. So again, I will just narrow that down. To our PowerPoint presentation, PowerPoint subject there. So there we go. So we've got all of the users that have used or that have gone through the PowerPoint 2010 knowledge path. Okay, so at the moment we've just got our two Larmer Brown test users have gone through it, LB1 and LB2. Okay, this shows us what activity that they've done for both for the two different subjects within that knowledge path. So we had the introduction subject and we had the advanced subject. It tells us how much what percentage they got on their pre-assessment. This column here will show us how far they've got through on the required completed play modes, and then what grade they got on their post-assessment as well. Also tells us how much time they've taken on it. It shows here not started or not applicable, because both of these users have just done the pre-assessment and haven't actually started on the bulk of the material yet. Tells us how much they've completed and how much time they've spent within it.
That concludes our UPK demonstration today. Thank you for your time. If you would like further information about UPK, we do have articles on our website and also offer a public schedule of UPK training, including developer, professional and upgrade courses.